The night was calm over Earth. No wars, no storms, only silence. In the small city of Novara, people were watching their favorite shows, walking home, or scrolling their phones. The sky above was clear and full of stars. Nothing looked strange. But then, at exactly 11:47 p.m., every light on the planet blinked once and went dark. For 7 seconds, the world stood still. Cars stopped. Power plants shut down. Airplanes lost their control. And then the sky itself began to glow. At first, people thought it was lightning, but the light was not white. It was deep golden, moving like a heartbeat. Across every country, clouds began to form in straight lines, creating strange symbols. Cameras caught the same image from every corner of the world. The lights were forming. Words, clear, perfect, glowing letters across the heavens. This is your final warning. Millions stood outside, staring upward in fear. The message stayed in the sky for 10 minutes, then vanished without a sound. News channels went wild. Some said it was a government test, others said it was an alien message. A few believed it was the end of the world, but one woman, Dr. Elena Ward, a scientist working at the Global Signal Research Center, did not believe any of them. She had seen the same pattern once before, hidden deep inside a radio signal NASA found 20 years ago from deep space. Elena was a calm and quiet person. She didn't chase fame or power. Her passion was the study of cosmic waves. That night, when the message appeared, she was working late in the lab. She froze when her computer showed the same pattern from the sky running through her system. It wasn't random. It was repeating in a sequence, a countdown. She called her partner, Dr. Jin Malik, from the observation deck. "Jin, it's not coming from space," she said in shock. "It's coming from inside Earth's atmosphere. It's reflecting from us." Jin looked confused. "You mean someone is faking this?" Elena shook her head. "No. The source doesn't exist in any known coordinates. It's like the signal is appearing from a time that hasn't happened yet." Before Jin could respond, the lights flickered again. Outside, the sky flashed with another line of golden light. The words changed. "The first line has been erased." People screamed in the streets. Television screens turned white, showing static. Radios played strange echoes, voices of people crying, overlapping each other. The world was in panic. Governments sent emergency messages. The military went on full alert, but no one could explain what was happening. The United Nations held a quick meeting, but the power kept cutting out. Every time the lights returned, the message in the sky changed again, as if something was talking to them. In her lab, Elena worked without rest. She traced the signal through satellites, trying to find its origin. When she slowed down the signal pattern, she saw something hidden between the light waves. It was an image, a city burning, skies breaking apart, and people running under a cracked sun. Her hands shook as she played the footage frame by frame. The city in the image looked familiar. It was Novara, her own city, but completely destroyed. The message wasn't just a warning, it was a memory. Jin stood behind her, his voice low. "Are you saying we're seeing our own future?" Elena looked at him, her eyes cold. "No, we're seeing our final moment." That night, she sent the decoded images to her old mentor, Professor Ilya Morev, who had once led the Time Research Program, an experiment that was shut down after a strange accident. Ilya replied within minutes. His message was short and haunting. "I told them this would happen. It's not from space. It's us, sending a message backward." Elena stared at the screen. Her heart raced. If what he said was true, then humanity had reached a point in the future where the only way to survive was to warn their past selves. But what were they warning about? Suddenly the ground shook, the city alarms screamed. Outside the window the sky split again, but this time it wasn't light. It was darkness spreading from the clouds like ink. The lights of Novara started to fade one by one. People screamed as their reflections in windows and mirrors began to blur. Some said they saw their future selves staring back before vanishing completely. Elena grabbed her data drives. "We have to move," she said to Jin. "We need to reach the Northern Observatory. If this is what I think it is, it's only the beginning." As they ran through the dark streets, the sky flashed one last time. The golden letters appeared again, but now they looked broken, like the message was being torn apart. Time is collapsing. Do not look up. Elena stopped running and looked up anyway. For a second she saw something beyond the clouds, shadows of massive structures floating in the sky, like cities made of light and ash. Then everything went black. When she opened her eyes, she was no longer in Novara. The city was gone. The air was still, and the world around her was silent. Jin was beside her, breathing heavily, staring at the empty ground where their city once stood. Elena whispered, "The signal didn't just warn us. It took us somewhere else." The wind howled softly across the barren land. Above them the sky pulsed again, and a new line of light appeared, calm and steady this time. "You have been chosen to remember." Elena stared at the glowing words. Her voice trembled. "Chosen? By who?" The signal pulsed again, brighter, louder, filling the air with a sound like a heartbeat. And in that moment, she realized something terrifying. The message wasn't meant for everyone. It was meant for her. The morning came, but the sun never rose. A thick grey fog covered the land where the city of Novara once stood. The roads were cracked, cars frozen in place, and there was no sound, no people, no wind, no birds, only silence. Dr. Elena Ward and Dr. Jin Malik walked carefully through the ruins. The ground looked strange, like melted glass. It felt soft under their boots, as if the earth itself was still warm. They were both scared to speak, afraid that even their voices might break whatever was left of reality. Jin looked around and whispered, "Where is everyone?" Elena didn't answer. She held her tablet tightly, trying to scan for signals. The screen showed nothing. No power, no internet, no satellites. It was like the entire world had gone dark. Then suddenly the tablet flickered, and a single line appeared. "Do not forget the erased." Jin's face turned pale. "Who sent that?" Elena shook her head. "I don't know, but whoever they are, they're still watching." They walked farther and reached what used to be the city center. There was no sound of destruction, no broken buildings, only empty space where the buildings should have been. It looked like someone had carefully removed every structure, leaving clean marks on the ground, like the city had been deleted. Jin knelt and touched the earth. "This isn't natural," he said. "This isn't war or fire. This is precision. It's like time here was cut out with a knife." Before Elena could respond, a low hum filled the air. The fog above began to move, swirling faster and faster. Through the mist, they saw faint shapes, buildings appearing and disappearing, as if someone was playing the world in reverse. Then, for one brief second, they saw the city whole again. People walking, lights shining, laughter echoing, but it wasn't real. Elena realized they were seeing a memory of the city, an echo stuck between moments. The signal from the sky had fractured time itself, and Novara was trapped between existence and erasure. "Jin," she said softly, "this isn't just a warning. This is proof. Time is falling apart." Before they could move, their radios came to life, hissing with static. A deep voice broke through the noise. "Dr. Ward, if you can hear this, get to the underground base. Sector 9, they're still alive there." It was Professor Ilya Morev. Elena's heart raced. She turned to Jin. "He's alive. We can reach him." They followed the broken highway north. For hours they walked through ruined landscapes. In the distance, other cities flickered and vanished, whole skylines disappearing into thin air. It was happening everywhere. Humanity wasn't dying from war or plague. It was being deleted from time. By evening, they reached a tall metal door built into a mountain. The door opened automatically when Elena's tablet connected. Inside was a long tunnel, glowing with blue lights. The deeper they went, the more they felt the air hum with strange energy. At the end of the tunnel, they found a group of survivors, scientists, soldiers, and civilians gathered around old computer screens. Professor Ilya was standing at the center, older than she remembered but still sharp. "Elena," he said, "I knew you would come. You saw the signal, didn't you?" She nodded. "It wasn't from space, it was from us." Ilya smiled sadly. "Yes, from the future. A final attempt to stop the end." Jin stepped forward. "But why cities are vanishing? Why people disappear like dust?" The professor turned to the large screen behind him. It showed a map of Earth with red zones spreading fast. Each city that vanishes is a location where the timeline has been changed. Something or someone is rewriting history, removing places that lead to the disaster. But they've gone too far. The world is collapsing faster than it can heal. Elena clenched her fists. "Then we have to find who's doing this." Before Ilya could answer, an alarm went off. The lights turned red. The map on the screen started flashing. One of the zones was expanding rapidly. It was heading straight toward them. "Another erasure wave," Ilya shouted. "It's coming here." Everyone ran for cover as the ground began to shake. The walls flickered like a glitching video. Elena looked at the screen and saw the name of the new vanishing zone. Her heart stopped. Sector 9. Jin grabbed her hand. "That's us!" They ran through the tunnel as the light behind them began to fade. One by one, the survivors were swallowed by darkness, their bodies turning into dust. The hum grew louder until it was like thunder inside their heads. At the end of the tunnel, they found a sealed elevator marked Archive Level. Elena smashed the keypad, and the door slid open. They rushed inside as the world outside began to fade completely. When the elevator stopped, they stepped into a large underground chamber. It was filled with strange machines and glowing cylinders, each one holding fragments of images, cities, oceans, people. Jin stared in awe. "What is this place?" Elena looked around slowly. "The memory archives," she whispered. "Everything that's been erased is stored here." In the center of the chamber, a large hologram came to life. It showed the same golden light they had seen in the sky, now forming new words. "If you remember, you can restore us." Elena walked closer, her eyes wide with shock. "They're not gone. They're trapped in memory." Suddenly another voice spoke through the speakers, calm and cold. "You should not have come here, Dr. Ward." Elena froze. "Who is this?" The voice replied, "The one who tried to save humanity. The one who caused its end." The lights dimmed, and a figure appeared behind the hologram, a man in a black uniform with a strange symbol on his chest. Elena recognized the face instantly. Commander Voss, her former ally, her friend. The man who disappeared 3 years ago during the first-time experiment. He smiled faintly. "Welcome back, Elena. You were never supposed to remember." The lights of the underground chamber flickered weakly. The air was cold and filled with the sound of low humming machines. Dr. Elena Ward stood frozen, staring at the man in front of her. Commander Voss. He looked exactly the same as the day he disappeared. Same calm eyes, same sharp face. But there was something different now. His skin had a faint glow, and his shadow moved slightly slower than his body, like it belonged to another time. Elena took a cautious step forward. "How are you alive, Voss?" "You vanished 3 years ago when the first-time experiment failed." Voss smiled softly. "Alive? That depends on what you call living. When the experiment collapsed, I didn't die, Elena. I was pulled out of time. I have seen the end of everything." Dr. Jin Malik raised his weapon. "What are you doing here? Why are cities disappearing?" Voss didn't answer right away. He walked slowly around the glowing memory tanks, touching one of them gently. Inside the glass cylinder floated frozen images, families, streets, oceans, all shimmering like ghosts. He finally said, "These are not memories. They are pieces of the timeline. Every city that vanishes is stored here, protected from destruction. Humanity's story is being rewritten piece by piece to stop the event that ends it all." Elena frowned. "Stop the event? You mean the collapse of time?" Voss nodded. "Yes, we tried to fix time, Elena, but every attempt created more cracks. So we decided to cut away the broken parts, to erase them. It was the only way to keep what's left of reality stable." Jin's voice was sharp. "You're killing billions of people to protect an empty world." Voss turned his eyes to him. "You don't understand. They aren't dead. They are asleep in memory. When the timeline stabilizes, we can restore them." Elena shook her head. "You don't know that. The signal said final warning. You're not saving humanity, you're ending it." For a moment, silence filled the chamber. Then Voss walked toward the main console. With a flick of his hand, the holographic screen changed, showing a burned and lifeless Earth. The oceans were black, the air thick with fire. "This is what happens if we stop the erasure," Voss said. "I've seen this future with my own eyes. The temporal engine under Antarctica fails, and it tears a hole through time itself. The sky burns. Humanity vanishes in 1 second. That's why we started Project Archive, to save what we can before the end." Elena looked at the screen, her heart pounding. "So you've become a god, choosing who stays and who disappears?" Voss's face darkened. "I didn't choose this, you did. You built the algorithm that calculates which sectors collapse first. You gave us the system that allows this to happen." Elena froze. "That's not possible." "It is," Voss said quietly. "You just forgot." He pressed a button, and a new image appeared. Elena herself standing beside him 3 years ago inside the time chamber, wearing the same uniform. She looked different, tired, desperate, and afraid. The recording played her voice. "If this fails, send the signal back. Warn them, tell them they must stop me." The room went silent. Jin looked at her in shock. You knew?" Elena's mind raced. She remembered the experiment, the day time folded in on itself. She had volunteered to test the temporal engine's first loop. But her memory after that day was blank. "I don't remember any of this," she whispered. Voss stepped closer. "Because we made you forget. You were the only one who could fix what was broken. But when you realized the price, you tried to stop us. So we erased your memory and sent you back before the collapse began." Elena's hands trembled. "So the signal in the sky, humanity's final warning, it was from me." Voss nodded slowly. "From the last version of you." Before the end, the machines around them started to hum louder. The holograms flickered. Something was wrong. The archives began to shake. Jin looked at the monitors. "Another time pulse is coming." "It's big." Voss looked at the screen calmly. "The next erasure wave. It's heading for this facility." "We can't stop it." Elena grabbed his arm. "Then release the archives." "Let the people go." Voss looked at her sadly. "If I release them now, the collapse will spread across every moment of time. Past, present, future, all gone." The floor cracked and one of the memory tanks burst open. Streams of golden light poured out, swirling around the chamber. Within the light, they could see faces, people reaching out, whispering without sound. Elena felt tears on her face. "They're still alive in there." The light grew brighter, wrapping around her hand. For a brief moment, she saw another version of herself inside the glow, an older Elena, standing in a broken world, whispering something she couldn't hear. Then the light vanished, and the older version was gone. The hum stopped. Everything was still. The air felt empty. Voss stared at the control screen, his expression unreadable. "It's begun," he said quietly. "The next phase." "What phase?" Jin asked. Voss turned to him. "The merging. The line between time layers is breaking. Soon the erased cities will try to return. And when they do, reality will tear apart." Elena stepped forward. "Then there's still a chance to fix it." Voss shook his head. "You can't fix what's already ended." Suddenly, alarms blared again. The main hologram flashed with new words, written in golden light, the same kind that once... filled the sky. The archive has been breached. The future is coming. The survivors ran for cover as walls began to distort. Time itself bent inside the room, seconds stretching, air thickening, sound twisting. Elena and Jin clung to each other as the chamber broke apart. Through the chaos, Voss looked at her one last time and shouted, "Find the engine, Elena!" "It's the only way." Then he vanished in a flash of light. Elena opened her eyes again, lying in the middle of a shattered tunnel. The archive was gone. Jin lay beside her, barely conscious. Above them, through the cracks in the ceiling, they saw the sky again, glowing gold, full of moving symbols. But this time, the message was different. The future has arrived. Elena felt the ground tremble beneath her. In the distance, cities began to reappear, but twisted, distorted, glowing like ghosts returning from another timeline. She stood slowly, whispering, "It's not the end yet. Not if I can reach the engine." And somewhere in the golden sky, a voice answered back, soft but clear, "Then hurry, Elena." Before everything becomes one, the world had changed again. When Dr. Elena Ward opened her eyes, she saw the sky split in colors she couldn't name. Buildings from different timelines floated in the air. An old church beside a broken skyscraper, a highway looping into the clouds, and rivers running in both directions. Time was no longer stable. Beside her, Dr. Jin Malik slowly stood up, coughing from the dust. The ground under them cracked, glowing faintly with golden light. In the distance, strange figures made of smoke and light moved through the air, echoes of people from vanished cities, walking without knowing they were already gone. Jin looked at the horizon in shock. "Is this still Earth?" Elena looked at the shifting skyline. "It's every version of Earth mixed together. The merge has started. They needed to find the temporal engine before reality tore itself apart." The last words of Commander Voss still echoed in Elena's mind. Find the engine. Hours passed as they walked through twisted landscapes. Day and night shifted every few minutes. They passed a playground where children played and disappeared with each breath. They saw a train moving upside down in the sky. Every step felt like walking between dreams. Finally, they reached a communication tower half buried in the ground. A small light blinked on a broken terminal inside. Elena connected her tablet. A message appeared, encrypted but with one familiar code. Voss Priority Channel Elena opened the message. A video played, showing Voss sitting in a dimly lit room. His voice was calm, but tired. "If you see this, the archive has fallen. The engine is reactivating under Antarctica. You have less than 72 hours before the merge becomes permanent. You once built the override key. It's hidden in the core vault beneath the northern polar base. Only you can reach it." The video glitched. Then Voss's tone changed. "Elena, if you remember what I did, forgive me. But the others won't." The message ended. Elena stared at the screen, silent. Jin placed a hand on her shoulder. "He's helping us." "Maybe he's not the enemy." She shook her head. "He's the reason this started. I trusted him once, and it destroyed everything." Before they could speak more, the terminal lights turned red. His sharp voice echoed from the speakers. "Dr. Ward, step away from that device." Elena froze. The voice was familiar. Commander Voss lived this time. His face appeared on the screen, expression cold. "You activated a restricted signal. You just revealed your location to every unstable time zone in the area. You think you can fix what you broke, but you're only speeding it up," Jin shouted. "You said you wanted to save humanity." Voss glared. "Humanity is already gone. All that's left are fragments pretending to be alive. The only way to keep balance is to finish the erasure." Elena's anger flared. "You're lying. You said there was hope. You said we could restore them." Voss leaned closer to the camera. His eyes were empty like glass. "Hope died the moment you built the engine." The transmission cut off. Jin looked at her. "He's lying. He's trying to stop you." Elena nodded slowly. "Then we'll reach the core vault before he does." They left the tower and moved north. The further they went, the colder the air became. Frozen fields stretched endlessly, full of flickering shadows that whispered words from other times. Elena ignored them, keeping her eyes on the compass. By nightfall, they found shelter in the remains of an old research station. Inside were burned computers, old coffee mugs, and frozen screens still showing warning messages from years ago. Elena powered one up using her tablet. The data logs were from the Time Research Project, the same one she had worked on. Her name was everywhere, Project Lead Dr. Elena Ward, but there was another name added later, Commander Voss. Authorization Override Protocol 09. Jin frowned. He changed your work. He turned your design into a weapon. Elena's voice was cold. He used my algorithm to erase cities, and I helped him without knowing. Outside, the sky pulsed again. The light spread across the snow like veins of gold. From the distance came a deep mechanical sound like a heartbeat echoing through the frozen land. The engine was awakening. Suddenly, the radio in the corner crackled. A voice whispered through the static, "Elena." "He's coming." She turned quickly. "Who's this?" The voice broke again. "Voss, he's near you. Don't trust him." Then silence. A sharp noise echoed from outside. Jin grabbed his weapon and looked through the shattered window. A shadow was moving toward the station, tall, slow, glowing faintly blue. Elena's heart raced. "It's not human." The door burst open. A figure stepped inside wearing a black environmental suit. When the helmet lifted, it revealed Commander Voss, his body flickering like static, as if he were half here, half somewhere else. He looked at her, his expression mixed with anger and sadness. "You shouldn't have come this far, Elena." Jin aimed his weapon. "Stay back!" Voss didn't move. "You both don't understand. The merge cannot be stopped. Every second you delay makes the collapse worse." Elena faced him. "Then tell me why you sent the message. Why say I can fix it?" Voss's voice lowered. "Because I needed you to bring the key to me." Jin turned to her in shock. "The key? Elena, what did you bring?" Before she could speak, Voss raised his hand. The machines around them began to hum, reacting to the signal in his body. The floor cracked, revealing golden energy underneath. Elena realized the truth. "You used me as bait," Voss nodded. "I had no choice. The key is in your neural link, the implant you got after the first experiment. It's the only copy left, and now I have to take it." He moved forward faster than any human. Jin fired, but the bullets passed through his shifting form. Voss grabbed Elena's arm, light flaring from his hand. Pain burned through her skull. Elena screamed. The world flickered. She saw flashes. Memories of the time lab, the first experiment, and Voss standing beside her as the sky tore apart. His last words before everything went white echoed in her head. "If you fail, I'll finish it myself." With a final burst of strength, Elena pushed him away. The signal broke. Voss stumbled back, his form flickering violently. Jin pulled her up. "Run!" They escaped through the back of the station as the entire structure exploded in golden fire. Voss's voice echoed behind them, half human, half machine. "You can't run from time, Elena. You are time." Snow and light filled the night. Elena and Jin ran until the station was nothing but a fading glow. When they stopped, the horizon flashed once more. Far away, deep in the polar ice, something massive rose from the ground, a spiral tower of light reaching into the clouds. The temporal engine was waking. Elena stared at it, breath cold and heavy. "He betrayed us, but now we know where to go." Jin looked at the shining tower. "That's the end of the world, isn't it?" She nodded slowly. "Or the start of a new one." Above them, the sky wrote one more line in golden light. The final clock has started. The world was breaking apart. Elena Ward and Dr. Jin Malik stood on a ridge of frozen glass, staring at the storm of colors above them. The sky was no longer one sky. It was 1,000 skies overlapping. Lightning struck in red, blue, and gold. Pieces of other worlds drifted across the air. A city skyline, a mountain upside down, a shadow of a sun that was not their own. They were moving toward the temporal engine, now awake and glowing like a second sun beneath the polar ice. Every few minutes the ground trembled with its pulse. It was calling to her, whispering through her neural implant, pulling at her thoughts like invisible threads. Jin saw her trembling. Elena, are you all right? She took a deep breath. It's speaking to me. The engine knows I'm coming, he frowned. Then we move faster. Before Voss finds us again, they started walking across the white wasteland. The air was sharp, filled with floating ice crystals that glowed faintly gold. In the distance, they could see machines half buried in the snow, old war drones, now frozen in time. Some of them still moved slowly, repeating commands from centuries ago. A mechanical voice echoed through the storm. Access denied. Error. Loop. Jin kicked a piece of metal aside. All these ruins. It's like every timeline collapsed into one. Elena nodded quietly. That's what the merge does. It pulls every possible reality into one moment, until nothing makes sense. Suddenly a sound came from behind them, heavy footsteps crunching through snow. They turned and saw 3 armored figures emerging from the fog, their armor glowing blue under the fractured sky. Each of them carried energy rifles and wore the same insignia, the Eclipse Guard. Voss's elite soldiers. Jin raised his weapon. We've got company, the lead soldier spoke through a distorted voice filter. Dr. Ward, Commander Voss requests your presence. Elena stood firm. Tell him he'll have to come himself. The soldier raised his weapon. He knew you'd say that. The first shot hit the ground beside her, exploding in bright light. Jin fired back, hitting one of the guards, but it dissolved into dust. A time echo, not real. Another fired from the right, and the air rippled. Elena reached into her coat and pulled out a small device. A pulse grenade. She threw it at their feet. The explosion didn't kill them. It froze them mid-motion, their armor flickering like paused video. Run! She shouted. They sprinted through the storm as the frozen soldiers began to reappear behind them. The air shimmered as the timeline tried to correct itself. After minutes of running, they reached the edge of a massive ice canyon. Below, a bright golden glow pulsed through the cracks. The temporal engine core was directly beneath them. Jin stared down. How do we get in? Elena looked at her wristpad. There's a hidden access tunnel through the old time research base, buried a few miles west. If we reach it, we can enter from below. As they began to move, her implant suddenly sparked. A sharp pain ran through her head, and she dropped to her knees. Elena! Jin knelt beside her. Voices flooded her mind, thousands at once, overlapping, whispering fragments of her own memories. You made me. You broke the cycle. You are the engine. Her eyes glowed faintly gold. For a moment she saw everything, all versions of herself across timelines. Some alive, some dead, some standing beside Voss, some destroying him. She gasped for air and looked at Jin. I saw it. Every version of this moment. Every time one thing changes, who stops it? Jin helped her stand. Then maybe this time it's us. They continued toward the base. After an hour of walking, they found the entrance, a half-buried metal hatch covered in ice. Elena used her wrist device to scan it. Access code required, the device said. She hesitated, then entered an old password, Project Omega. The hatch unlocked with a deep metallic groan. Inside was darkness. The corridor stretched down into the earth, lined with old warning signs and broken lights. The deeper they went, the louder the hum of the engine became. Jin held his light ahead. Feels like we're walking into the heart of the storm, Elena nodded. That's exactly where we need to be. They reached a control room filled with frozen computers and shattered glass panels. The center of the room held a cylindrical pod, glowing faintly blue. Inside was something that made Jin step back in shock. It was another Elena. Her body was perfectly still, eyes closed, floating in suspended animation. Jin whispered, "What is this?" Elena stared at her own reflection inside the pod. "It's me, the first test subject, the one Voss used to bind. The engine to a human mind." Suddenly, a voice came from behind them. "You finally found her," they turned. Commander Voss stepped out of the shadows, his body flickering with unstable light. He looked older, but his eyes were the same, sharp, cold, and full of regret. Elena aimed her weapon. "You're too late," he shook his head. "No, Elena, you're too late. The engine is already active. You can't stop it by fighting me," Jin stepped forward. "You lied to her. You used her. Voss's expression darkened. I did what I had to do to save what was left. You think this world deserves saving? Look outside, it's already gone. Elena glared at him. Then why keep fighting? He looked at her, his voice low. Because I can still choose which version of humanity survives. He lifted his hand. The walls around them started to shake. The pod containing the other, Elena, began to glow brighter, filling the room with light. Jin shouted, "He's activating it!" Elena reached for the control panel, trying to override the sequence. Her implant sparked again, connecting her mind with the pod. Memories flashed, the lab, the experiments. Voss holding her as the first test failed. His whisper, "You were never supposed to wake up." The room exploded in a wave of light. When the light faded, Jin was gone. The pod was empty, and Voss was standing in front of her, his form glowing gold. He smiled sadly. "Welcome back, Elena. You're finally whole again." She looked down at her hands. They were glowing too. The voice of the engine spoke in her head. Integration complete. Outside, the fractured sky began to spin faster, merging into one blinding circle of light. The final phase had begun. The storm outside the base had stopped. The air was heavy, silent and gold. The fractured sky above Antarctica was now a single swirling light, the last. Sunrise of time itself. Elena Ward stood alone in the ruins of the Time Research Base. The world around her no longer followed rules. Gravity bent. Shadows moved without light, and the ground rippled like water. Her hands still glowed faintly. She was connected to the temporal engine now. She could feel its pulse inside her chest, beating like a second heart. Every second that passed sent a wave of memories through her mind, not just hers, but the memories of billions of people across all timelines. She heard whispers, laughter, screams and music, fragments of lives long gone. You were chosen. You are the bridge. You are the last timekeeper. Elena's voice trembled. I didn't choose this, a deep voice echoed from behind her. You did. You just don't remember. Commander Voss stepped out from the golden mist. His body flickered like a reflection in moving water, sometimes solid, sometimes light. He was no longer fully human. Elena glared at him. Where's Jin? Voss looked down. He's outside. Between moments. When the engine pulled you in, it froze him. He's safe, for now. Her heart clenched. You turned him into a memory. I preserved him, Voss said quietly. Just like I preserved everyone else. When the merge is complete, the new timeline will need anchors. People who remember what came before. You and I will be those anchors. Elena shook her head. No, I won't let you control the future. Voss walked closer, his voice calm. You still don't understand. The engine doesn't destroy, it rewrites. You can't stop it. You are it. The ground around them split open, revealing a massive pit of glowing golden energy. In the center floated the temporal core, spinning slowly like a sun trapped underground. Voss raised his hand, and a holographic map appeared in the air, the timeline itself stretching endlessly in all directions. Millions of branching lines flickered like living veins, but many of them were collapsing, fading into nothing. This is the human timeline, he said. Look at it. It's dying. Loops, paradoxes, collapses. The result of every mistake, every experiment, every war. The engine is trying to rebuild it into something pure. Elena stepped closer, her eyes wide. By erasing free will. By removing chaos, he replied. She stared at the map. And who decides what's chaos? Voss didn't answer. His silence said everything. Suddenly, the ground trembled violently. The hologram shattered. The golden pit flared brighter, and Elena heard voices again, louder, clearer, desperate. Lena, stop him. Don't let him rewrite us. They were human voices, from every city that had vanished. The memories were waking up inside her. Voss saw her trembling. Don't listen. They're echoes, broken pieces. They'll only confuse you, but she shook her head. They're real. They're people. And they want their world back. She looked up at the core. If I connect to it fully, I can restore them. Voss's face darkened. If you do that, the paradox will destroy everything, including you. Then so be it. He took a step forward, his voice rising. You think this is about life or death? It's about existence itself. I saw what happens when the timeline collapses. There's nothing beyond this, not even darkness. Just nothing. Elena stared at him, her voice calm. Then we start again. She ran toward the core. Voss shouted her name, but she didn't stop. She jumped from the platform, falling into the golden light. Instantly, time froze. Her body stopped moving, but her mind expanded beyond the limits of space. She saw everything. The creation of Earth, the rise and fall of civilizations, every human heartbeat across eternity. She saw Jin, standing at the edge of a frozen city, reaching for her. She saw herself thousands of times in different worlds, a scientist, a soldier, a ghost, a memory, and at the center of it all was the engine, waiting. It spoke with her own voice. You are the last timekeeper. Choose the shape of tomorrow. Tears filled her eyes. I choose humanity. The core exploded in light outside, across the world. The sky split apart. Golden beams shot through the clouds as cities began to reappear. Not the same as before, but changed. Time rewound, but only slightly, enough to restore what was lost without collapsing reality. People woke up in the streets, confused but alive. Mountains returned, oceans calmed. Inside the engine, Voss watched in awe as the new world formed. His face softened. You did it! Then the light began to consume him. He looked down at his glowing hands, understanding the cost. Elena, he whispered. I was wrong. But it's beautiful. He vanished, turned into light, part of the new timeline. Elena floated in the center of the core. Her body shimmered between light and shadow. The voices faded into silence. The world was stable again, but she was no longer just human. She was time itself. Her eyes opened, glowing brighter than the sun. A quiet voice echoed through the void. Cycle reset complete. She looked at her reflection in the golden light. No more resets. She reached out, touching the core one last time. The engine's pulse slowed. The hum softened. And then, for the first time in centuries, time became still. Far above the earth, the fractured sky cleared. The stars returned, calm, real, endless. Elena Ward had become the guardian of time, the last timekeeper, and somewhere in the new world below, Jin Malik opened his eyes again, standing under a sky that had forgotten the storm. He looked up and whispered, "Thank you, Elena." In the wind, a faint golden light shimmered for a moment, her silent answer. The world had been silent for hours. Then, as the first rays of sunlight touched the shattered ice fields of Antarctica, the silence broke. The new Earth began to breathe again. Dr. Jin Malik stood on a high ridge overlooking a golden ocean. The waves shimmered like liquid glass, and in the distance, pieces of old cities floated on the horizon. Fragments from other timelines now merged into one. He touched the snow beneath his boots. It was warm. Time itself was warm again. Jin whispered to the air, "Elena, are you here?" Only the wind answered, carrying a faint golden shimmer. He had seen the sky break, he had seen the engine explode, and then he had woken here. No machines, no armies, no Voss, just silence and light. The war for time was over, but he couldn't shake one question from his mind. What had Elena become? He looked up at the sky. The old constellations were gone, replaced by slow-moving lines of golden light that shifted gently across the heavens. They weren't stars. They were patterns, codes, a message. He pulled out his old data pad. It was barely working, but the translator flickered to life. As he focused on the moving symbols above, the pad displayed words. Humanity restored. The engine sleeps. Remember her. Jin smiled weakly. You did it, Elena. He began walking toward the old time research base. It was half buried under the new ice, but some of its structure still stood. Inside, he found flickering lights, signs that something or someone was still active. As he moved deeper, he heard faint humming. He followed it until he reached the main chamber, the place where Elena had fallen into the core. The golden pit was gone. In its place was a quiet pool of light, rippling softly like water. Jin knelt beside it. For a moment his reflection shifted, and he saw her. Elena stood in the light, calm and peaceful. Her eyes glowed faintly, and her voice was like an echo carried by wind. "Jin," she said softly. He smiled, tears filling his eyes. "You're alive." She shook her head gently. "Not like before. I'm part of the timeline now. Every second, every heartbeat, every sunrise, that's me." Jin's voice broke. "You saved them all." "I tried," she said. "But it's not perfect. Some worlds merged. Some people returned changed. Time is still healing." He looked at her reflection. "Then we'll help it heal. We'll rebuild." Elena smiled faintly. "You always were the hopeful one." He reached out to touch the light, but his hand passed through it. The light rippled softly. "Elena," he whispered, "what happens now?" Her expression turned distant. "The engine sleeps, but it will wake again someday when humanity forgets what it means to be human. When they begin to play with time again, then someone will need to guide them." "You mean another timekeeper?" Elena nodded. "Every age needs one." Jin looked up at the golden sky. "Then I'll make sure they remember you. The woman who saved time." Her voice softened. "No, Jin, don't make them remember me. Make them remember why I did it, so they never repeat our mistakes." The light around her began to fade. Her voice grew distant. "Take care of them. Build something better." "Wait," he said, his hand still hovering above the light. "Will I ever see you again?" A pause, then a gentle whisper. "Every time you look at the sunrise." The pool dimmed, fading into silence. Jin sat there for a long time, staring at the soft glow until it disappeared completely. When he finally stepped outside, the air was calm. The fractured sky had healed. The new sun rose higher, shining on a world reborn all around him. Signs of life began to appear. Green moss on the ice, birds cutting through the air, the faint sound of waves against rock. He climbed to the top of the ridge and watched as new cities appeared far on the horizon, glowing, structures built from the remains of many worlds, future made from fragments of the past. He took out his small recorder and pressed the button. "This is Dr. Jin Malik. Humanity has survived. The sky has changed, but we are still here. If anyone hears this, remember, we are the children of time, and we must protect what she gave us." He looked up one last time. The golden patterns in the sky shifted slowly, forming a single shape, a circle with 3 lines through it, the mark of the timekeeper. Jin smiled. "Goodbye, Elena." The wind carried a faint echo, a whisper in his mind. "Goodbye, Jin." He stood there until the sun rose fully, bathing the world in gold. A new dawn had begun. Humanity was alive, and time, for now, was at peace.